can hear stuff.
Testing. 1, 2, 3.
Okay.
I will be right back, though.
And I can't hear myself. That's great. Okay, cool. So we have started recording.
Hello, Internet.
Hello.
Yeah, hello the 5 people that are going to watch this.
Amen.
And we have gathered here today for the Mando's Writer Assembly. Yeah, it's very exciting stuff. Basically, how I started off with the last one, the EU one, was we gave some PSAs of like how much the write-up basically that I gave you guys earlier, which was how much power does this writers assembly have, what decisions are being decided as a result of this assembly. None. Nobody cares. Nobody here has power. Dravian, nobody's got authority in the Mando community. Dravian was just the first to make a Discord, and then I hopped on it because some exciting things have happened to stir a lot of discussion. Yeah, and on top of that, it goes into the next one. I will not be leading a Mando faction. That's what I told the last crowd. What I'm going to tell you guys is I am going to be leading a Mando faction, and you never know what it's going to be. It's already in the
Rob
works.
Vision is the third.
You never know. Keeping everyone on their toes. And no, but there's no intention, no designs for me to get involved. I'm just one of the biggest voices in the Mando community, so I decided to join up and talk to you guys and stimulate the conversation about what was going on and what people wanted to do. And that goes into, okay, we're not going to discuss Arla Australis. Nobody cares. Yeah, we have irrefutable proof that they were a band member, and that's pretty much it. Like you have one shot when you get banned from this community is to appeal to the admins, and Arla / Kane Australis has no shot at ever coming back. So they just get banned, and they're kind of weird. So I definitely urge you not to engage with them if they approach you, because it's weird, dude. just be banned. Find another community. And then the Mando Protector situation. Arla was the final nail in the coffin, I feel like. Well, they're not dead yet. But they have had some bad luck. They are the predominant faction, so that's why we're talking about them. And they had like 5 members back to back to back that were considered a part of the faction admin team, part of the leadership team, and they just went MIA. It's the summer lull, like I was telling the last group.
Right.
People are touching grass more often, and these individuals just went MIA, whether it be for real life situations, whether it be for I lost interest in the story, whether it be for OOC drama. Who cares? Well, we care if they're having problems in real life, but other than that, nobody's reached out and told us why they bounced, so they just bounced. They just disappeared, and that was one of the first conversations I had when I got involved with them, which was when I got involved with the Protectors, which was, what happened to IJAT? What happened to the Mandalore? The Iron Father, they called him. He just disappeared. So that's where we're at with that. They had too many leadership figures just dip and bounce, and it really stonewalled any momentum they had. So they've just been kind of keeping their head afloat. But then I went on in the last group, I went on to say, my personal take is that a lot of the discussion about what they wanted to do, despite, 5 leadership figures just disappearing on them, was always like isolationist type stuff, always government infrastructure stuff. It was just not very exciting, and it really did not help an already dire situation of them creating an exciting story and narrative and something people want to show up to and role play with, and not just fulfill those that monthly Dominion or whatnot. So I'm not bashing them at all, but it was just a situation in which, uh, like, what do we have no direction. We're rudderless at sea. We have no idea what we're doing. So that's where I basically turn it over to you guys. And I said we're going to do 2 hours, so we can go to 9:30 p.m. Eastern if we want. But I'm just going to fill the room as we continue to discuss the situation. But I basically just want to go around the room and talk to you guys about what you find interesting, where you're at with your characters. If you have a character, are you just here to lurk and see if there's any drama going on or whatnot? So,
Why are you going to
anyone
call me
wanna-
out like that? Jeff?
I mean, it is what it is, dude. Some people do. Like I've got 13 years doing this, dude. 13 very long years of different iterations of chaos, watching it all happen. People love drama. It is.
I get
it
the
is.
feeling with that because during college, like half my time was lurking because college. I was focused on other things.
Exactly, and that's no fault of your own. You're putting real life first, as the saying goes. But that's my take. Let me get on the actual open chat. Another thing is I wasn't watching the chat for the majority of the. If you don't know, because you're a boomer like me, there's a little chat message icon next to the voice chat, and it has the chat.
I keep forgetting that exists.
Yeah, I did too, and we went the
I hate
entire
that.
hour without me even noticing, and there were people typing in there, and I felt bad, but I am now knowledged on it, so educated on it, so we're good. So if you have questions, don't feel like talking, scared of your own voice, etc., feel free. Of all that stuff. I know all about IJAT, combination of two, busy IRL and some OOC drama. I would probably say it was all OOC drama. No, I don't know.
Okay.
I don't know anything about the situation. I never asked. There's no tough scoop on that.
I won't divide in the details because there's not much to say.
Yeah. Plus, we want to avoid it for the video and stuff.
Exactly.
It's not a big deal. Let's see. Yeah, we covered where we're at. Is Kez in here? Bro, Kez. Kez dipped, dog. Kez ghosted. Kez, get your ass in here, dog.
Yeah, I don't see him in here at all.
Yeah, Dravian, dude, you're helping me host this. Do you have anything to add? Why you wanted to make the thing and whatnot?
Well, I had some questions, as you had seen. I don't know if I should just put them in.
Start us
and just
off.
let people
Go ahead
respond
and
to them.
go ahead and
or-
ask them, and then we'll I'll help navigate down the list of people.
All right, so you will see these appear in the side chat as well, just for the people who can see them. But our first kind of question I had is, what sort of plots as Mando writers make you the most excited to play Mandos? And how can we facilitate that as a community?
Let's go with S1 SF Raptor.
Okay, so I think honestly, if anyone's noticed me right, I will jump into a lot of different things depending on the character and all, which is kind of true, and why I have like 3 or 4 Mando characters doing completely different things. But I'd say, like, overall, there hasn't really been like a big strike back at the Sith over, or maybe there's been some, but wasn't as active when it happened or something.
We planned one. Nobody.
That is true. We were planning one, and then everything happened.
Well, how long do you need to plan, man?
Well, that's the thing. It's like we did a junction with them, and
It was poorly timed.
yeah.
It was down to the GA and the having their Coruscant invasion, and everybody was involved in that, and that took priority over the Junction.
Fair enough. So that's an exciting thing, is why in 2 years are we now holding only the Protectors accountable for responding to something that Carnifex did to Mandalore? Is that is that what I'm gathering from? why are we blaming the Mandalores, the Mandalorian Protectors, for not responding at all? What did the Enclave do, dude? Did they ever have a VC about this?
You know,
I know at some point I remember reading a thread that the Enclave had a whole fight with Carnifex, but I have no idea where it went. I think Carnifex got away in the end, going, and then yeah, that
Yeah,
was
he's
all I
the
really.
villain.
Well, yeah, of course he did. That goes into something. So it's a hard to answer question. That's why I didn't go by a lot of those questions, Dravian, on the previous round, which you'll see in the video. But what I said was it's very difficult to answer that in like what's exciting. What exciting narratives do you see for the Mandalorian crowd? And it's like the majority of the room's like, that's a great question. Leaders of the Mando community, what exciting narratives are we gonna do? Because it's been a while since we've seen anything exciting. To be real,
it's
go ahead.
like a lot of stuff that I've jumped into where it's like, okay, because like Klangrad's kind of enough of a roaming presence where it's like you can squeeze in here, try to do stuff, and it's been like all the fleeting stuff I've tried to do has ended up being everyone dogpiling the other side, and me understanding how that feels. I'm like, you know what? I'm gonna back off, not add to this 1 or 2 people on the other side facing 10 others.
That's fair enough.
I know.
Go ahead,
I know
Dipple.
from the Protector's side, we kept pitching stuff. It just felt like nobody was ever interested. And that was kind of the continuous issue where we would pitch threads, we would write up the threads, and then nobody would show up.
Yeah.
Well,
And-
I can touch on that. Okay, because this is my area of expertise. So listen up. If you're not, you can't blame the people who don't show up for not showing up. If you're creating an exciting, if you build it, they will come type situation. If you create an exciting enough storyline slash narrative slash environment, really, then people will show up. So the fact, and that's what I talked to you guys about with the Protector Squad, which is not the Protector's fault at all. We covered at the very beginning of this discussion. The Protectors had way more against them than any other faction I've seen in recent memory has had against them. Of no fault of their own. It was just like literally leader dropped after leader dropped. So it's hard for somebody to come in and pick up the pieces and say, hey, let's go and do this. And then the situation is that you have storylines that you do develop and people don't show up to them, which was the point that you made. You have to go back to the drawing board. There was so many, and this should be a bingo game for every time I mention Raw. There was so many times that I went and did a Raw storyline, like the Great White Crusade. Who remembers that? Show of hands? Yeah, nobody. So it's like it was meant to be like a political thing, but nobody was really interested in politics. Everybody came fresh off a whole storyline about crusading, and then we got done with the crusade, and people wanted to go straight into like the next big thing. And I was like, let's simmer a bit and let's deal with politics between factions. And the majority of Mandos were like, boring. Skip. And I was just like, I can't blame you guys. If you guys don't want to do that, like it's really up to me to try to come back with food that you want to eat, not food that you're forced to engulf and nourish. So, yeah, man, you're a chef. You got to cook a little bit, a little better for people to
And
want
then
to eat
what's
your
funny
food.
is like even though all of this was before me coming on, a lot of raw stuff ended up affecting Mead's background. So that was one of the funniest things. Like, I was not involved in any of this, but this is good to use in this.
Well, that's good. It's good from multiple parts because one, I'm a staple of the community. I've been here for 13 years, so you're always going to hear stories about my time as Mando, like OC. So you're going to have some of that knowledge, and you're probably going to use some of that meta knowledge. But I've also helped, like me and Gil. Me and Gil are two of the most like big named guys who are doing lore for the Mandos. So you'll
Right,
hear a lot
my
about
mic.
that. And it's not really meta because forum roleplay moves at such a slower speed that you could. It's reasonable to acknowledge the fact that your character, probably has heard about a lot of this stuff. So, because in character, it's only been like 50, 100 years, not even. It's only been like a generation or two. It's like us hearing about World War II in real life. Like, you hear about it a lot. It's covered a lot. So,
Yeah, heck, there are still people, not as many anymore, but like growing up, there were so many people still alive from it.
And it was one of the biggest, like, board-wide affecting time periods for the Mandos. We have had some since, but we also had like 4 Mando factions at that time. So that's another thing to consider. That hasn't happened since.
And I thought just the ME and CIS existing at the same time as, well, CIS kind of having a major Mandalorian component, and then the main Mandalorian Empire where it's like, there's 2 at the same time? And then afterward where there was like 10 at the same time, and I'm looking like, oh, okay.
Well, I mean, I've been talking with other people leading up to this call about, like, honestly, we probably need more than one Mando faction on the board at any given time, just because there is that split in the different interpretations of Mandos that people like.
Right, because there's, what, 5 or 6 major iterations that you can go off of?
Yeah, and everyone has their favorite.
That's a great idea.
There's
Go ahead, Sakaris.
Protectors, Neo Crusaders, Child of the Watch.
Yeah, that's a great idea. So the Protectors were given an opportunity recently to vote in a new leader. And they voted in a person that was not only a subpart writer, but also turned out they're a band evader. and the only reason they got voted in is the whole room knows they were just active. That's the only reason why. And I can't really blame you guys, because in the face of just inactivity, of course, what is the most valuable attribute you're looking for? Activity. So, but that goes on to say, that whole situation removed from the discussion, the problem is if you can barely find a leader for the already active and already dominant Mando faction, how are you supposed to find 2 leaders? Like, how are you supposed to split it up? It's not rational. It's not, I would love it for it to happen, but it's not a very feasible thing to accomplish.
Yeah. And that's kind of the problem that, like, we faced early on is we had the half of the group who wanted to do Protector style stuff, but then there was also the half of the group who were like, no, we want to strike at the Sith. We want to go on a crusade against the Sith. And the story we settled on was, let's rebuild Mandalore. It's been fucked for a while. Let's fix it. And we never really got much interest in that, unfortunately.
Because it's boring. For the love of God, it's boring. We had a whole discussion about it in the last one, which you'll see when I compile. It's boring. I'm sorry. But it is. You're not gonna get a lot of people, and not a lot of people will show up because again, it's boring. It's tale as old as time. Like the only things that attract people to Mandalore are destroying Mandalore. You saw me with the whole Allural tie stuff, and I said, hey, let's go around Mandalore and let's explore some of these meanings. Like the location of the Allural tie was described as close to the location physically by the Black Gate of Sundari, where Ra declared his crusade on the core. Um, so let's focus on some of that legend stuff, the mythical stuff of like, oh, this is where this happened.
Which to
Where
me that sounds awesome.
this is where the duel, when Ra fought 4 other Mandos for the first time. By the way, there had never been a duel to become Mandalore. It had always been OOC chosen, which still seems to this day to be the case. I don't understand why. I was trying to set so many precedents at that time period, like 7 years ago, to be followed by every generation extra, or to draw inspiration from. But how did IJAT become? How did the Iron Father become Mandalore? Could anybody clue us in on that?
Yeah.
Oh, go ahead, Mia. You know more than I do.
You were a
So
faction admin, though. You were a faction admin, weren't you?
I wasn't
but
originally.
yeah,
ahead, Mia.
Deborah came in a little bit later, but in character, Mia pushed him to be Mandalore, and then we just went around, and there was no duel for it. We tried to engage with the Enclave to try and get something going there, but it didn't
Yeah.
really happen, which is why we wound up.
Well, yeah, I'm
centering
not
things
like
on
grilling
Mandalore.
anyone because the Protectors are only the most recent example. Enclave, I think,
Oh
went
yeah,
the entire time without a Mandalore or
And I
something
think
like
Yeah.
that.
part of it,
Yeah, pretty much.
yeah, I think part of it can be with more narrative RP style, like how Chaos is set up, that it can be difficult to go in and decide who's actually winning.
Yeah. Well, so we
Yeah.
had an OOC vote decide ours. I said I'll fight everyone, but we won't declare a winner IC. We'll have an OOC vote on who's Mandalore and that will decide who wins in character
It's
of
actually
the
a
Oh, I
really
duel.
like
cool
that.
idea. I like that.
Yeah, it seems
I
like a
like
great
that
idea,
a
right?
lot.
And there was
Wait,
4
I'm
of
gonna,
us. It wasn't just a
I'm gonna
1v1. And
it was a
then
good fight actually.
that goes into our next topic, which I really like to talk about. This is my favorite part of the discussion we had in the last one, and my favorite part, I think that gets a lot of people going and opens your minds a little bit, is so going off of that duel, okay? Raw fights 4 people. People vote me in. Everyone cries that Tefka's just popular, and that's the only reason we won. And I said, "You're right. That is the reason I won." And and then I get declared
And
Mandalore
what?
OOC. But I said in that time period, I said I will not take the mantle of Mandalore as Raw until I am verified by each clan at the Allure Council. And in that moment, we empowered the Allure Council. The Allure Council did have a lot of people interested in it at the time. I haven't heard that interest since. But I also wasn't involved with the Enclave, like, at all. But the Allure Council immediately got a huge boost in like their power rating, dude, because they got suddenly empowered because the guy who just got voted OOC Mandalore just said, "I'm not going to do it until I go and visit in character with the Allure Council and we do a validation. Like each Allure of the clans needs to swear this guy in and say, I validate that." I validate the vote type deal. Like, I swear my allegiance, declare loyalty to the Mandalore, protector of Manda Yam.
Kind of
So,
similar to what you were trying to lean towards with Celebration, even though I had fun with Mig just going, someone has to keep an eye on things while this is going on, but
yeah, that's the Allural tie is literally what we did. The Allural tie was what we described that process after we had done it. It didn't have a name when we did it the first time, but the Allural tie is literally the meeting of the Allures to decide on a new Mandalore, which is pulled from the Coral tie, which exists in real life. It's how they decided who Genghis Khan's successor was.
I never knew that.
Yeah, it was a
That's-
meeting. Literally, Coral Tie stands for the meeting of the cons. So I swapped it with the Laurel Tie and said it's a meeting of the Allures. Because the
you were
real
talking-
power was the Allures. But the point I'm going with this is, if you want to get excited for something, you have to create an enemy. And in that moment, I gave the Allure Council the same power as Mandalore. So now we have two entities in the Mandoverse that are like equal of power. And one of them is basically a Senate, which, as we all know, is very prone to corruption and just sheer stupidity, as they would later be known for. Like, it was great, but that's how we created a villain inside our own hierarchy, and anyone could be in a lore, man. You just have to roleplay that I'm a part of this clan. I'm the clan's leader. Boom, you're on the Allure
Right.
Council, basically. Excuse me. So that goes into the very next question, which is, who do you perceive to be the villains of the Mandalorian scene? How do you perceive conflict? I mean, Mandalorians are bred from conflict, right? That's what's exciting to people, is the conflict of everything. And I don't just mean doing it. We're going to invade this planet. We're going to invade that planet. We're going to do a skirmish with GA because um, they have members and we're struggling. We need conflict, man. Like, every story is bred from some sort of conflict, and I get that we're like a PVE type of board, and I get that, the chill atmosphere of chaos these days, but you have to accept it. I think Ham in the last call said, I really believe in the second part of Star Wars, which I agree with, 100%.
I mean, yeah. I mean, even one of, I would say, probably of the like non-kiddie, like excluding like Jedi Academy from this part, since that's a little kid show and it is what it is. It's what it should be. But even down to something like Andor, which doesn't have a lot of physical conflict, it's still revolving around the intrigue side of it.
In
See,
that,
Well,
my take is always going to be that I have heard so many people state that the Jedi are the natural enemies of the Mandalorians, but I also think that right now on the board, and this is coming from both the perspective of an former MP admin, and a now GA admin, is everyone picks on the Jedi.
Yeah.
It's kind of
Yeah,
boring at
you
this
guys are
point.
really big though.
Didn't Pre-Vizsla say that Jedi are the enemies
Yes.
of the Mandalorians
Yeah.
in the
Yeah.
Clone Wars show? Isn't that where that quote's from?
But also, like, that's the Death Watch specifically at the same time.
Yeah.
True, but
Mhm.
he was. But the Death. What are the Death Watch representative of? The
Now,
pasts of the Mandalorians, right?
building onto
So
that.
that's
Go
what I
ahead.
was
Go ahead,
thinking.
Zerg. You kind of got talking over there for a second. Go ahead, Zerg.
So I only just made a Mandalorian character, and if I were to put my opinion in, I'd actually say the Mandalorians' worst enemy is themselves at this current
Yeah.
age,
Yep, 100%.
and because of the aforementioned, there's so many different ideologies. There's the ideology of the original Crusaders, who were nomadic warriors going around conquering stuff. There's the new Crusaders, who want to sacrifice that individuality and nomadic lifestyle for a more settled, just outward expansion, constant expansion. If they ever stopped, they'd collapse immediately, like they did in the Mandalorian Wars. And then there's just what Mandalore the Uniter established, which is the current era of Mandalore, which eventually turned into what we saw with Death Watch. So really, I've always seen Mandalorians' biggest conflict with their own ideologies and which ideology to follow, because there's just so many interpretations of it.
Right. Like, that was one of the main themes, even in The Mandalorian, where you had like the, I guess, Neo Death Watch kind of view that we would see come up in Rebels versus the Children of the Watch.
Exactly.
I
And
always go ahead, sir. Sorry.
no, sorry. It's why I kind of saw that the new faction on the block, the Neo Crusaders. That finally made me make like my first Mandalorian character because I've had a Neo Crusader idea kicking around since like 2020 that I never did. And yeah, I like the conflict of ideologies the most.
Yeah, I
That's
told
basically
Ham
it.
and I've told Zeph. They had great timing, but like to have a Mandalorian faction starting around the same time we were having these discussions. But again, if you remember on celebrity known status, most popular Mando 2016, 2017, 2018, Ra Vizsla, he heralded the Death Watch as his first like we united 4 factions I think of the Mandalorians, and the Death Watch were the first. They were just the
Yep, I
happiest to
remember that.
join Mr. Crusader on his journey. And so
Uh,
so yeah, I hold the Death Watch as one of the ultimate versions of what a Chaos Mandalorian usually steers towards. Yes, there is that narrative that everyone talks about, which is Mandalorians are their own worst enemy. They're constantly having different takes on what is a true Mandalorian. That's the most boring conversation I've ever had.
Like,
What a
don't
true
ask what a
Mandalorian
true
is.
human.
Yeah, and I like those philosophical takes when you go in character, but when you go out of character with them, I'm just like, well, I can't kill you out of character. Like I can kill you in character for your ideas, but I have to sit here and listen to you out of
Right.
character.
We
And
we,
it's sort
we
of like,
kind of can't really even do that.
and it's just like, why are you so? Are you role playing a character? Because or do you really like close the book, close that Karen Travis book? It's like, I actually believe this. It's like,
because it's sort of like the way I set up Clan Grad, which ironically, because of the Force stuff, like the Force purging with Ra, would have a natural tendency to be somewhat wary of other clans wanting to go into Crusader mode.
that was
what do
the
you mean you
most
don't want to be a
united.
part of a?
That was one of the most united periods of time. Was when we crusaded. Dog, it was easy. It was easy. We talked about this was literally our last subject of discussion was who do you perceive to be the villains of the Mandalorian scene, and Crusade immediately says like even if you take on the real world,
Everyone.
yeah. Well, we had a direction. There's a speech about it that Raw did, but it eventually boils down to like the Sith and the Republic are steaming corpses that lay on top of the core. They're suffocating the core, and we're gonna go put an end to their eternal. Yeah, it was an end to the eternal war. And
Was this the start of Nothing Survives in the Core on Chaos?
Yeah, yeah.
well,
It really was.
this was Chaos lore is the GR and Sith open. Like the very first invasion was on Mandalore, and it was between the Republic and the Sith. And we had a Mandalore there. It was I was role playing the Grand Master of the Jedi. My character died. We keep going on to and the Sith Empire gets beaten by the Mandalorians though with the help of the Jedi, and such starts the hatred between the Sith and the Mandalorians.
Mhm.
But then you fast forward to okay, the Sith get beaten by the Republic, come back a few months later as the one Sith and just absolutely wipe the Republic, but they only get far enough to the point of pretty much where the NIO and TSE were like 2 years ago, 3 years ago, where it's like okay, they made their like huge advance, and then they got stopped, like they stalled out.
It's almost like
And the GR the Republic never folded. So it was just a constant eternal war. There was no declaration to the end, but both factions, OOC, were going pretty inactive, and people were exploring other things because they were getting tired of the toxicity. So in the middle of it, the Mandos come in and sweep the board with, we're going to invade both these guys. Both these guys are leading this galaxy to ruin. We're going to go take over the core as the Tong did before us, and we're going to we're going to remove these cancers from our galaxy. And that started the Crusades into the core.
I have a question, actually,
Go ahead, sir.
piggybacking off that. And when it comes to that, I'm not really chaos lore buff yet. I keep hearing buzzwords and stuff like the
I'm
red
not either. I've just been
coronation
here.
and whatnot. And then I'm kind of like staring at what's going on now, and I'm like, okay, how do you revitalize Mandalorian roleplay without doing exactly that same thing? Going on a massive crusade again for like the 4th time.
Well, it would only be the second time, but no crusade is like the other, right? But also, like, no faction is like the other. And we were talking about, apparently Enclave went on a crusade in the last, like,
Yeah,
back
they
half?
tried, and that
Uh,
was kind of what led to their downfall.
Okay.
Yeah, 'cause
Isn't
they
it the
started
GA
as
they
more
tried
of
to
like
go
a-
against?
Yeah, they tried
Well,
to invade the GA.
Technically, it wasn't a crusade. There was like talks of people wanting one, and then we built the narrative of there was a miscommunication, and people assumed the Enclave was going to go on a crusade, and so they built up this whole thing against it. And technically, we weren't. And then there was a whole bunch of fighting going on that was based on misconcepts, miscommunication and stuff on like Ryloth and stuff, and then that built up a whole tension between the allies of GA and Enclave, and so then we had the invasion.
Yeah,
So you dipped your toes in. You're like,
Yeah,
let's see a little bit. The
and
water's a little
then
warm.
like for some reason we wanted to continue it, and the GA side kind of lost interest or something is what
that's not what happened. From the GA's perspective, we had a breakdown of out of character communication due to, if I'm remembering correctly, Rev posted something he shouldn't have in the GA server, got kicked for it, and Ave stopped talking to us.
I had no idea about that.
Who would have thunk that OC led to a breakdown of roleplay?
God damn
Who-
it, man!
never
God
Who
happened.
could predict it?
Hmm.
Who could
When
have
has that ever
predicted
happened
it?
on Chaos?
Who
Yeah,
could
there
have
was
predicted
also-
this? You know, during that period of time in which the Republic and the Sith were having their eternal war, and the Republic just never ceded. During that time period, I was basically, not only was I volunteering, but I was also summoned several times to advocate and mediate the invasion talks between the faction leaders, because none of them could get along. OC. And I just could not believe it, because this is not a Raw story. This is a Tef story of when I led the Mandalorians. Yes, I was encountered with people who got way too emotionally involved, way too self-inserted, could not separate themselves from the OOC and the in-character stuff. But every time I did it, I said, what do you want to do? Because this invasion is going to go exactly how you want it to go, and we're going to do it exactly to the terms that you want to do it. And
Right.
we're just going to leave it up to the judges to see if we win. I don't care how much you place place chessboard pieces down on the board to strengthen your own chances for victory. We're still gonna have a chance to win from our side. So why the breakdown? Why the OC toxicity? Why any of that stuff happens is beyond me, because it just seems so easy to be like, okay, this is a story, man. We're all writing stories together. And what I told the last group was the biggest part of the conflict thing is, no matter who wins or loses an invasion, both factions, huge activity boosts to both of them.
Right.
people see that happening. They want to be a part of it. They get the FOMO like they're Mia on their phone at 10 p.m.
Thanks.
and like they have a FOMO. They see people are having fun and they want to join, no matter whether it's the winning side or the losing side. And there's everyone benefits. So I've never understood. It's always self-insert behaviors that cause all of this. It's you guys thinking that you are your characters and not writing a character.
You don't always have to win.
There was also,
Yeah.
with the Enclave, it was also a case of, if I'm remembering correctly, one of the big problems was there was a genuine divide within the Enclave of people who wanted to go full crusade and people who didn't. I was on the side that didn't.
Yeah, fair enough.
Same in the Protectors, though.
You're
I think
entitled.
that was also the shift from like the more bounty hunter to more being a full faction, if I remember right.
Yeah,
I mean, yeah, that's more or less true. There was a split between that, and we never really got to get on a full, like, if we were going to or not, because then the staff basically became inactive.
Yeah, because they couldn't agree. Nobody wanted to fold. They couldn't cede to another person. They had to have their vision executed, or is nothing. And I can tell you guys, if it's like that for you, just go ahead and fold, because you're hurting yourself mentally by continuing to push a narrative that is not going to be exciting. Okay, you just have to make your peace with that. If a majority of your leadership is not seizing onto an idea, then how are the players going to? And that's where I come in with the invasions benefit both people. And another thing I told the last group on top of that is, not only does it benefit both people, but there is one thing to watch out for. It's the losing side. The members will be fine. It's not the members that you have to worry about, that a part of that losing faction. It is the leadership. Every time, 10 times out of 10, if you have a piss poor position amongst the leadership, when you take a loss in any PvP scenario, you will have such a hit to morale. You as a leader have to just take it on the chin and be like, "We'll get them again next time. We're gonna pivot to doing these stories. We're gonna take this loss and turn it into more RP." Or look at the loss that we suffered to a single scummy Sith Lord like Carnifex, and look how much lore over the last 4 or 5 years has generated for Mandalore. The entire lore time revolved around how much lore that generated. It's great roleplay.
Yeah, I mean, heck, it ended up kind of redefining Clan Grad, especially with the most recent updates to it, me finally putting it down to the actual submission, where it's like, oh yeah, running around in space is probably going to change you a lot.
Well, the Protectors, we pitched several invasions. One of the big ones is we pitched to the Empire of the Lost. We were going to do a deep strike into Mon Cala and cloud break them. And we basically got told, we don't want it to be an invasion, we want it to be a skirmish.
Well, that is we could have just done that. We didn't have to agree with them, but I didn't want to be that person, so that's on me.
Well, they were probably trying to plan invasions with other people, but I mean, yeah, you could have still pushed it. Regardless, if I get I was doing stuff with Mecha Factum, and I had talks with every faction leader, and a lot of them are bums, sure, but a lot of them are cool as well. And if it all depends on timing, everyone has their own plans they're trying to execute. So
right, I think Hammerfall went well because kind of both sides were like, yeah, we know what we want the story to be. This is just the last breath of what's going on.
Yeah, sure.
And then somehow the ME won that one, which was probably the most hilarious thing ever because the whole plan was to lose.
Okay, well, we're about 30 minutes in. We can talk all day and all night about how to do a successful faction, but none of us would be here if we weren't all spinning rims on how to get a successful faction going. So I just want to go around the room. Let's hear from some people that we haven't heard from. The guy above Birch in my chat. Let's have you don't have the voice, you can type. But
Me?
yeah, you conflict. You can either say what is your favorite villains that you've perceived. What is your favorite conflict that you've recently been in with the Mandos? Or you can throw in a codex submission if you are fond of those.
So I agree. I think that one thing that can happen is a more of a, I like to call it a crisis of faith with the Mandalorians. We have seems to have a lot of different battling ideologies. So not necessarily Mando fighting Mando, going pew pew, but uh, basically a battle of politics and people winning over. That is possibly a step forward because Mandos can always go on a crusade that drives hosting, and so those are my two
Okay,
cents. I can do the
so down
go
with the
on.
crusade, if possible.
Down with the crusade, but some politics too. So to
Yeah,
get everybody together. So
cool.
Which I think that would have helped with the rebuilding Mandalore to have more of that conflict part of it too.
Rebuilding Mandalore, you guys got to get off that. You
Yeah,
got
I'm
to,
just
dude.
saying when it was the plan, it might have
Hey,
helped
hey,
sit in.
y'all suck, dude. You got to get off that train,
Yeah,
dog. Stop trying to rebuild. It's
it's like
built. It's still there, dude. When we started off of canon, when we started chaos, it was already fucked up. Just let it be, man. It's fine. It'll be fine. Let the Sith, let Carnifex have his little toys on the planet. It's fine. It creates lore.
yeah.
And
The
that was another great
part.
thing that we talked about in the last one was the when I said, why don't you guys why don't you guys just let the Jedi have fun with you when they're at role plays? Like you don't have to create a factory submission that cancels out everything, like a backpack with a Yosel armory in it or whatnot, dude. Just let the Jedi fling you. You're in a vulnerable armor. Let the Jedi just fling you around a little bit, you know?
I mean,
That was
plus
just funny.
Rebels had some tools you could use very easily.
Yeah.
Easily, like little buckler shield and stuff.
Well, that's the thing, right? We're more complicated than walking up with just a lightsaber every time and Dragon Ball Z powers. So there's a lot more tools at your disposal. What'd you have to say, Dravian? I'm sorry if I cut you off.
No, you're good. Firstly, yeah, the rebuilding stuff is boring as shit.
Yeah, there's
Um,
two things that we could agree on, I think, which I wrote down for people to read before they came in, which was rebuilding Mandalore is boring. I don't know why we keep focusing on that for like 4 years. If you really wanted to do it, it would have been done by now. Okay? And then two, it's so easy to
Yeah,
just do a
one
Dominion.
thread can take care of that.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying, and you still haven't done it. So get off the train, dude. And then,
As
what's
a
up?
background thing, it's one thing. As the main thing, it's a completely different.
Well, I
thing.
just hear that every time, don't you guys? You guys talk about it more than I do. Every time is let's rebuild Mandalore, dude. No, you're out of ideas. Just tell us that you're out of ideas. That's it, dude. This is fine. It's fine if you're creatively bankrupt. Just go touch some grass. We'll think of something while you're gone. Um,
I have a second thought if I can
what's up,
add
brother?
that in.
Yeah.
For me, I always had the most fun, I guess, when we were fighting Force users, be it Sith, Jedi, witches on occasion. But I just like that struggle. I don't know why I do. I just like the idea of here's a group of people who, for the most part, don't have those powers, going up and beating the shit out of some Jedi.
Yeah.
Because it's a challenge. And it's fun to kind of write and figure out, like, what are you going to do? How do you counter this?
See, I've had the opposite experience, so I can't comment too much on that.
Oh, sorry, it was not Pre Vizsla. It was the titular character of the Mandalorian, known as Mando, who says the Jedi are the ancient enemy of Mandalore. Um, but I'm sure Pre Vizsla said something like that too.
Well, I
Yeah,
mean, weren't there abilities in tech originally created to counter Jedi Force abilities?
100%. Yeah, and
Yeah, but
I still encourage you guys, despite saying that we shouldn't have to, like, let the Jedi. It's more about like the dance. I talked about the dance also with the EU crowd. The dance is you give and you get, right? It's you can't do a
Yeah.
two-step by yourself. So there has to be a but don't you both want to have fun? It's cool to like just absolutely dominate a dude in role play, but it's also cool to empower each other. Like, okay, I'm in invulnerable armor, and his lightsaber can't burn through Beskar, so I'm just gonna take a couple of hits and get flung all over the place, like
Oh yeah, and it's
that
fun.
type of stuff.
yeah, I mean,
Yeah,
Yeah, that's
we have a
And
good judge of what it can take now. I mean, it took a giant rhino smashing into it, and that wasn't even Beskar. So
yeah.
and there's an important rule in improv acting is that if you're going off of someone else, each person's goal is to make the other person look good.
I think that if that has been lost in the annals of chaos history, like we should really focus on relearning that because we're in a great chill period of chaos right now, and to enact that, and three, like it's such just a positive, better mindset as storytellers. Because you have to remember, you're storytellers. You are writing characters. You are not those characters. You never will be. But
Yeah.
those characters are helping. Like your character by itself is just a novel, dude. But with everyone else's characters in there, it's a storytelling environment. So you have to make other people feel good. Like they're also the main character. So you help them
Hmm.
feel good about their character and their writing, and then etc. Yes, Serena, if you're a boomer like me, don't feel bad. There's an entire video talking about how I missed the video. There's a chat symbol next to town hall in the VC. We're all in there, like the little speech bubble.
Sorry.
No,
I
you're
didn't see
fine.
that.
Yeah, if you
yeah,
want to
don't
just,
worry,
Mobile
I
and
got it too.
yeah, you're a mobile boomer. I get it.
I'm off. No.
Okay. Uh, yeah. So that's where I'm at with it. I like the idea of the Jedi being an enemy of Mandalore. I like the idea of I. Of course, I'm always going to dive back into the raw stuff, but his his speech was something like Mandalore remembers, like Mandalore remembers what you guys did for us and what you didn't do, and
Hmm.
what you didn't do speaks volumes about what we're about to do to you. So like it was just a like where was the Galactic Alliance where when Carnifex absolutely dumpstered Mandalore? Where was all these other like I'm the hero of the galaxy archetypes? God bless you. When
Thanks.
we were down, because again in the very first invasion of chaos lore, it was not the Jedi who took the first onslaught of the Sith Empire. It was not and the Sith Empire was the most powerful faction. Everybody was in the Sith Empire when we first started out. It wasn't the
Yeah,
Jedi who bulwarked against that tidal wave of Sith aggression. It was Mandalore. Mandalore stood first and foremost, and we defended against that. And you're going to tell me that those ancient ties don't grant us some not only immunity to your constant aggression, but also your aid? Like we shouldn't even have to ask you, where were you when all this went down? When we took on all this? So, um, I mean, there's a lot of ways to spin that narrative into creating an environment where the Mandalorians are once again opposed to all these entities. But it's That's where I fall on it. I don't know where you guys fall on it. But I like to again pick. I like to look at the landscape and I go, I'm about to make. I told Hamwagon and I were discussing conflict in the last call, and I said if I was sat down and if I was bored and I was in the middle of a room and you sat me down with Ham, and even though we agreed on everything, even though we got along, we were best of buds. I'm gonna look at that dude for a role playing aspect and go, I'm gonna villainize this guy. I'm going to turn this guy into a villain because that's going to give us both something to operate off of.
Mm.
I'm going to make him mad. I'm going to get under his skin. I'm going to provoke him into action on me, or I'm going to aggress on him first. I'm going to create a villain out of it because us being friends until the end of time is the most boring ending for any story ever.
Yeah, I think that was what was initially intended for the Enclave and GA before things went bad. But
I think the Enclave is pretty easy to describe. They had a good long run, man. It's like a year, maybe 2 years that they were around. That's a long lifespan of a faction. Do those ideas and move on to the next idea. What's up?
I mean, I was going to try and make the point that I think the greatest enemy is the Sith. But that's just because I'm a newer writer and it feels like as much as we shit on or as much as we like talk about, oh, it's been done, we need to move on from Carnifex's whole thing, but like one of the big plans for the Protectors was going to be hitting Korriban, and we just never got around to it because nobody seemed to care.
Do you mean Moraband? I'm sorry. I hate that name too. I hate that name too.
But like, if nobody seemed to care, that probably says a lot about how people feel about that storyline.
Look, I agree. Thank you. We're learning. With nothing else in the Mando Writer Assembly, we are learning. George Lucas himself came up with a shitty name, and nobody took on it because it was not exciting.
But I mean, technically, we was the whole thing. I mean, with Carnifex was never truly settled, right?
Yeah, that's kind of what we were trying to build off because that was kind of the most recent.
Serena kind of hits the nail on the head, I think, here. Okay, so what Serena's saying is rebuilding Mandalore, in my opinion, comes up because newer Mandalorian writers or people just coming into the scene pop in, see it's been messed up, and don't realize it's been done to death. Facts. These are true. And potential. But I feel like a lot of the people that are saying let's rebuild Mandalore are faction leaders who usually have been around for a while. But things that are old hat for some writers are new experiences for new writers. There's nothing more disheartening for a newbie to hear than that won't work because we've done it before. That's boring. I'm not saying that won't work because it has been done before. I think we all agree it hasn't been done before. Rebuilding Mandalore literally has not been done before. People are just like, oh, offhanded sentence in one obscure roleplay that, hey, I rebuilt my house. Like, there's never been a massive generational boom to let's bolster Mandalore, with all hands on deck, because it's not exciting. People want to go to war. They want something simple to follow first, and then they want to explore that conflict. With Mandalore and rebuilding it, the conflict is not a player character. There is no person that's bounding back at us. It is a PvE scenario best reserved for like a Dominion or something, which is where I come from. So I agree with your sentiment that it is very disheartening for a new guy to go, here's an idea, and then somebody to go, that's shit, we've already talked about it, we're not going to do it. I agree, that's very disheartening. But it's also not entirely the full story, right? Because again, like I said in the addendum, where the opening was, nobody wants to roleplay repairing potholes. Just being real. So there are ways to spin it, though. You have to hit the writing table with.
Right. It's like my bread and butter for the past while has legitimately been like, oh, I have a ton of ships still. I can do evac stuff. And has literally just
there
been,
you go.
do not touch, combat and civilian ships popping in and just trying to protect a corridor.
Or just provoke a faction. Like, one of the things that I hate the most is when faction leaders get on the scene, they try like hell. Unless they're the Sith, usually. They try like hell to justify their reasoning behind decisions to appear as if they're the good guys or morally correct on roleplay situations. And I feel like they try it to the extent that it feels like, again, they're self-inserting and like, we are in the right. Bro, it's okay to vote in a villain.
Yeah.
It's okay to be a villain. It's okay to vote in a guy he's a villain on Sundays, and then he's a good guy on Mondays. Like, go ahead.
Actually, a little spoiler alert for my main character Sahan. I'm actually trying to build him up where he's gradually becoming more villainous.
Which is fine. I would explore some villain tropes. I would look at some villainous tropes and be like, but you don't have to like paint it so black and white. For example, there is very few people that you could go to and say, this guy stands for Mandalore above like Ra Vizsla or any guy who has attained the title of Mandalore, because the literal title is Protector of Mandalore.
Yeah.
Or Sole Ruler. But it's also a point to, like, going back to Calling of Crusades. Nobody else viewed him as a hero. This guy was not their champion. They viewed him as a Genghis Khan rolling up on your gates and you're in China, dude. Like, that's bad news. That's not a good guy that you want to.
Yeah, or like, kind of how we talk about Julius Caesar. Usually, he was a great guy, unless you weren't Roman.
And that's what I'm saying. Yeah, and then if you were a Gaul and Julius Caesar roll up on you, it's like, oh, this guy's killing our women and children, dude. You think he cared? You think he turned around to his people and was like, yeah, my bad, guys. Let's
I mean, let's face it, human history, it's only been very recently that we have, just because information's flowing so quickly now, that we've cared what happens.
Right. Well, even still, it's like, okay, well, you're a Mandalorian writer. Why are you OOC discussing on Discord whether it was right or not to kill those civilians? Nobody cares. I think Zeph brought that up recently. It's very boring to have that conversation. Because are they Mandalorian children? If they're not, then who cares?
Could have been, but they aren't now.
It could be dealt with in character.
Yeah, which does bring up good conflict, because, like, kind of using Mig here with the backstory and all, and with the fleet taking in so many people who aren't Mandalorian, he's more likely to go, don't do that.
Sure.
Someone else would be, but that's in character.
Well, I can tell you this. Okay, so let's say you're doing evac, like we're running an invasion. I'm Ra, you're Mig. You're in a lore of Clan Greg. You have sworn loyalty to Ra. And I'm running an invasion, but you're running humanitarian efforts to evac people. That's your objective. That's your story narrative of that invasion. And then you see Ra has just approved the Mia's on the battlefield. Ra's just approved her to fucking nuke a city or some stupid.
Mhm.
And he's just full on said, yeah, go ahead and nuke. And she goes for it. And then you're like, but all the people, like, we still have ships down there. And then you confront Ra about that in character. He's going to dismiss you and tell you if you, like, you can't confront me as sole ruler. And if you do, you're going to jail. Like, we're going to imprison you.
Unless you want a blood duel challenge him.
Even then, like, okay, let's blood duel challenge them. Let's get them in front of the Allures. Let's have an Allure Council meeting after the fact. Let's play it smart, right? Let's not try to confront the single most powerful Mandalorian in the government in the middle of a active invasion. Let's play it smart. Let's have an Allure Council, and let's have all the clan Allures like weigh in on it, right?
Right.
That creates more and more role play. That's fun to me, role play, because then I can be like, and we had a situation like that happen where Clan Raxus refused to participate in the war, and we said no. You don't get to decide that. If you declare, you either cast down your Mandalorian sigils, or you come back to Mandalore because Papa's calling, right? And if you actively refuse, we're coming after you, and there's no moral debate that we're gonna have when we come. And we did go. They refused. We did go, and we held a tribunal. The guy got his hand cut off for being disloyal and getting declared. But he wasn't declared Darmanda because he refuted for his actions in the middle of wartime. Like these are war crimes against the government that you're talking about, because that's what you got to think about, is that a Mandalore, the Allure Council, those things are a part of a governmental body.
Right.
It'd be like telling the President of the United States that, no, I'm not going to shoot my rifle. Like,
Some of the
Uh,
I
best
think that one's
roleplay.
actually like a requirement by law if it's not legal.
but who was about to speak? I'm sorry.
I was going to say some of
yeah.
the best roleplay that I have done has been based on reacting to things in character, not discussing it out of character, just doing what your character do in that moment.
Yeah, spur of the moment. Yeah,
Yeah,
improv.
100%.
yeah, like with Mig and Bale going back and forth with the initial like planning for the carnival thing. That's very much what Mig would do, because he's like, wait, no, but what about all this?
Yeah.
Sometimes you also got to throw things at the wall and see what sticks. Thanks, Rena. It's really wise. That's so wise.
So much throwing things at walls.
Bro, let's just throw out empty platitudes this entire conversation. My thing is I'm blunt, okay? I'm getting down to the brass tacks. Like I told the last crew, again, I'm not defending anything the Protectors have done as a faction. I don't care to. It's not my right to. I was barely involved before the month or two that I was there. But then I'm also not for blaming them on anything either. They're the ones that this happened during, and that they had 5 faction leaders, like, for various reasons, whether it be because you fell off your roof in Australia or because you were just went MIA. They had inactive leadership constantly. So it was no real fault of their own. Mia actually went above and beyond. She's been there the whole time, just watching this happen, going, "What the hell is wrong with you people?" So it's not really her
thank you
fault.
again for all of that. Yeah.
Yeah.
Thank you.
If you guys were absolutely waffling, like you're waffling now, but if you were waffling it would be way worse if she wasn't there. So that's my take. Is like, these situations happen, and then we just recover from them, and or we don't. You don't have to. You can just call it quits and die.
I mean, it's happened with the Silver Jedi. How many times they have dropped off major faction and then come back?
I mean, real talk, I hate that too. Like, and we know it from an admin's perspective. I'll speak straight up. We know that you're inactive, and the admins honestly have like 4 times in the past 2 years have just wanted to go even harder than I went. And I executed like 9 major factions all in one go, dude. And they're just like, these guys are inactive, and I'm like, what are the standards for activity right now? Like, it's a constant battle of a conversation. So.
Right. And I know it can suck from even going into like the sub-faction perspective and all, but like the E had the rebel side and then they didn't touch the storyline for a year and like, oh, we're not doing that anymore. It's like, wait, we've been waiting though.
I mean, well, that goes back to the whole Mando conversation of like, it's so easy to say in hindsight that, oh, we would have done things differently, but you didn't, and we're here, and we're having a 17-person voice call about trying to help the situation out. But it's like, what are we really talking about, man? Are we trying to inspire people? Like I've told everyone, I don't really know why the Mando Writers Assembly exists other than to have this conversation. Like, beyond this conversation, this is your last hope, Obi-Wan. I don't know what to say to help you out other than pack your shit up and move, or get another leader, dude. Or keep going. I mean, you can't be wrong. You've been wrong 5 times in a row. Can you be wrong 6? I mean, keep rain dancing, buddy. Like,
I mean, we can certainly try.
yeah.
Yeah.
um,
My 2 cents
Go ahead.
on Mandalorians and a major faction is that regardless of whether we come away from this call and everybody's inspired and we all want to do something, is that the time for a major faction for Mandalorians is not now.
Mm,
I'm gonna take that with a grain of salt from a
yeah.
woman who's checked out. Okay.
That's fair.
I
Yeah,
wouldn't
you
necessarily say it isn't, because it could be.
Yeah, it could be. Like I told last chat that I'm not starting a major faction for Manos. I'm telling this one that I am. So you never know. But
I mean,
Respectfully,
but
when
I'm
it
an
comes
easy
to
answer.
Mando,
What we need from you guys is more. You were speaking Soundwave? Sorry.
yeah, respectfully, when it comes to Mando factions, they're not going to last for any extensive amount of time. Otherwise, it's going to end up like any other big faction that's been on the board, where they just kind of sit on a giant piece of territory until they just can't do anything because they're too bored to do anything.
The first Mandalorian faction that ever existed was called the Mandalorian Clans, and they lasted longer than the Republic, the Sith Empire, and the One Sith.
They did.
They were
True,
the
but
longest
that's not the
lasting
case
faction
now.
on board, but it directly confronts your statement of they are not long lasting factions.
So hearing that,
Nobody here, basically, I agree with you right now, wholeheartedly. I think you're right, but that's not always going to be the case.
I
And
think
What's
at
up?
least right now, one of the big problems I've noticed with Mandalorian factions is major factions need some facet of complexity. And Mandalorians, at least at current, are very single-minded. I know in the Protectors we tried to get the Witches going as kind of a sub-faction that never really took off. But I look at the SO or the GA or the DE, and they all have these different sub-factions that keep them active even if the main storyline isn't going. And
Yeah,
that's not something I see in Mandalorian.
yeah, that's why I kind of thought maybe leaning into something almost like ancient Greece, where you had the city-states being basically their own things, but their own alliances, yet were also semi one empire kind of thing.
Sure.
I don't know how to describe ancient Greece. Ancient Greece is its own thing. I don't know
Sure.
how to describe
Well,
it.
you just did by saying ancient Greece. That's fun.
Good point.
Cool. I don't really think that any of the voices, like, I'd love to hear from some of you people not speaking, because I think I've heard from Deadpool like half the time and Mig Gret the other half of the time, and their opinions, while valid, do not reflect a majority of the Mandalorians. I
Agreed.
Mig is a fleeter, and I'm pretty sure Deadpool was one of the 3 people that left when I joined the Protectors. So, what I'm looking for is more like, what are you guys doing going forward from here as Mandalorian writers? Like, what do you want to see? How do you feel about the Neo Crusaders? How do you feel about starting your own thing? Do you think there should be a major faction, or should there be like its own thing?
So to put my 2 cents in, since
Yeah.
I started this whole BS to begin with. Personally, I kind of am agreeing that for right now, it might be the time for us to kind of lay low, maybe do some small horror stories, But maybe in the future we can build something back up, maybe for we're ready. And as a history teacher, I do like the idea of the kind of Greek city-state-esque view on things. In fact, I've had something in the back of my mind that kind of works like that, but it's kind of a pleat of fancy for right now.
Okay, so just so I have this straight, your proposal is, and the thought process put into this is, we lay low and maybe do something later.
Because I think I'm starting to see that, yeah, for right now, I don't think we need a major thing.
Fair enough.
Exactly.
Kind of build up to one, maybe. I'm not sure how we'd go about that,
Yes,
though.
that's kind of where I'm. It's not going to be easy, I don't think. Nothing truly worth doing is, though.
Yeah, it'd probably be better than trying to force one right now, though.
Yeah.
It sounds boring to me. I'm just gonna be real. I back it. I mean, it's whatever you guys want to do. Going forward from here, here's what I would do if I was in a position to want to be a leader of the Mando clans, okay? Here's what I would go from here, is I would listen to how people are talking, okay? And I'd, listen to the people. And then I'd listen to Tefka, okay? Because it feels like nobody does. And yet, I led the single most successful and large Mandalorian faction on this forum in 10 years, dude. Okay? So, I'm beating my own chest about it, but it's where are these lessons to pull from? Where is these culture inclusions? Because a big part of our time was we were so successful that I was literally laying the groundwork for all future Mando clans to follow or draw inspiration from. You don't have to do it like we did, because we did go full tyranny reigns. Like, you could do a little more democratic. You could do it a little even more tyranny. Yeah, we're at the 8:48. We got like 30, 45 minutes left, Insanity. But you already attended yours, so you can come in and listen if you want. But that's my shtick is, like, where do we go from here? And my advice is not only listen to the people who've done it. I would slide in the. If you hate me, you need to slide in the Gills. He is still active in this community. You need to be sliding into his DMs immediately and finding out if he's interested, not to recruit him, but to ask him for advice. Because one thing I hate about talking to role players is they don't ever seem to want to listen to anything. They always want to just do their own vision. And that was a big part of the Protectors, too. What was that conversation we had about pillars? I was you guys were dead set on naming like the faction admin role within the government structure of the Mandalorians, and were pretending like that was your biggest problem. And I said, your Mandalore is gone. We don't know where he's at. How does that just disappear? And you're like, let's talk about pillars, man. Let's rename the government to the 6 pillars of strength and speed. My take is not that's a dumb idea in the face of everything that's going on. It's just you are not following the realistic response of what a government would do to one of their most prominent leaders in that time frame. And that was my suggestion, was we immediately tackle that. You have to. If we don't want to do a Mandalore in character, then don't do it. But come up with a good roleplay reason to, like, let's say he's gone and has absconded, and he's not been defeated, so we're not going to give him the title away to anybody else. We'll just pretend like the Iron Faller's gone, etc., etc. But where do we go from here is, I would say, start talking to each other and listening to each other is the most important thing. That's how you form these relationships, and you're hearing people talk in here, or you're just listening to me get amped up.
And just in case people haven't thought about it, a major faction owner for Mandalorians doesn't have to be the Mandalore. It can be anybody else if
Right.
you know.
100%. You don't have to have, dude. You could do Clan Gred, and that be a major faction, dude. You just need 5 members and a reasonable reason for like, okay, I carve out this, dude. Again, we had 4 Mandalorian factions during the in 2016 during the highest amount of Mando activity. We had 4 Mandalorians. Mando factions. We had like and one of them was the Mandalorian Empire, which was led by Isli Verd and Clan Varid, which is who I made my new character with the Protectors. So Clan Varid, and it was just one single clan with Isli Verd heading them up, and that was it. That was a major faction, dude, and a sizable one. They were actually rather large. So, yeah, man.
That's crazy.
And
That with when I came in onto the site, and it's just like, wait, one clan being that large?
Well, the Mandalorian clans were even larger.
Right.
That was my faction.
But also
Go
like
ahead.
even if there is a major faction, like the major faction owner, the one who runs it, their character doesn't necessarily have to be the Mandalore as well.
Yeah, I think those are important. One, it's based off of personality, and 2, it's based off of the leadership decisions of the major faction owner, in my opinion. Because if I'm major faction owner tomorrow, for example, never going to happen, but if I was, I'm probably going to create outlets in which other people can attain the mantle, but I'm also going to put my character forward towards it. Because for my leadership style, which is absolute tyranny, it just makes everything easier. Because a lot of people, like, my Mandalore was my most self-insert character. So it's just kind of, it blended well. And I fit into the shoes pretty easily. But it was more about providing a leader. And that's a big thing, is that you guys should be talking immediately about who a leader amongst you should be and whether they want to do it, because that's what you need. That's literally what the Protectors have been screaming for this entire time.
Yeah.
But he's right. You don't. Enclave has proven that. The very first iteration of the Mandalorians did not have a Mandalore. They NPC'd it. And I think they've NPC'd it again. Maybe I'm thinking of Enclave again.
Yeah, and then even realistically, most of canon Star Wars, there hasn't been a Mandalore.
True. Until Boba Fett claimed it during the Yuuzhan Vong invasion.
Right.
Isn't the idea behind the Mandalore is actually we don't need one until we're at war?
It depends.
But I mean, aren't we always at war?
Which version are you looking at?
I mean, when Vizsla tried to claim it, right? They weren't at war. He was starting at war by claiming it, but it's more of. I mean, it depends on the philosophy. Rob Vizsla said that during peacetime the Allure Council rules, and during war time the Mandalore is the sole ruler of the military. So,
which means that he could still exist. He just might not be the ruling entity.
That's exactly what it was that the Allure Council. He answered to the Allure Council during peacetime, but we never really got to explore that because Ra immediately used that and constantly kept the faction at war.
Yeah.
So that he'd always be in charge.
Just like the one hiccup in any system where that's in place.
Yeah, it's like, yeah, we're always at war.
Yeah, he designed it to make everybody feel good and then abused it immediately.
Just like some real politicians I know.
As a faction leader, you kind of have to be, because as a faction leader, you're gonna deal with people who are a little self-inserty, dude. Like a little too emotionally attached, a little too parasocial. you're gonna have to politic them, and you're gonna have to, or you can just straight up ignore them. Anybody else want to weigh in on conflicts? What the Mandos need right now? Or we could just go around and.
I am halfway tempted. Unfortunately, I don't actually have the time to really do this with real life stuff. I am halfway tempted just to go around saying like, "Hey, y'all been begging for a Mandalore, then submit."
Yeah, right. Well, we did that though. Like where it stands currently, in my mind, is that we had an allurial tie with the protectors. So if you were to take the protectors and
Yeah,
continue
and
them forth,
I was wanting to join in on that. I just didn't have any time at that moment away from work.
well,
Right.
IJAT didn't have any time either, dog.
Yeah.
and Arlo
I
ain't got any time now. So
I wanted to jump in and be like, why are y'all begging for a Mandalore? You don't deserve one right now.
and my take is I have time, but I don't want to step in on, like, it just seems like the default answer is to like ask other leaders like Gil, myself, John, other people who've done it, and be like, well, you've done it before, why don't you do it again? Or like Kez was saying, what was the other day? Kez was saying, who ghosted, by the way, I just want to bring this up again for the entire chat to hear. Kez has ghosted me because he's a coward and won't come to voice chat. But but he said, why don't you do it your damn self? My take is like, but I have though. Like,
Yeah, Kif kind of said the same thing. He said, he had the time. The Enclave had their time. Let somebody else do it. And he
and
was
that's
mentioning the protectors. But I'm like, I told him personally, I don't see them lasting that long.
it sucks because when you're at the end of your story, you don't want to let it go. And you
Yeah.
also don't know that you're in. It's kind of like knowing when you're in the golden times. You also don't know you're at the end until you are at the end.
Right.
Mhm.
And
Like I would say the Emmy was a very rare case where it was like, we're gonna go out how we want.
yeah. And my take is just like, I don't want to do that story any differently than I did.
And
So
even with the trade league, we were like, yeah, let's go out how we want.
Yeah.
yes,
Let's
Enclave.
let's go down losing to the Sith.
Yeah, and with Enclave, I don't feel like there's any remorse about, like, sure, there's some things they could have done that they didn't
Yeah,
get the chance to, but and
it was
I'm
still
sure
a good run.
there's jokes that you can make about the Enclave. There's jokes that you can make about Raw. There's jokes that you can make. Like, people are always gonna there's always gonna be negative things to say in hindsight, but it doesn't matter because once that story is finished, like, how do you feel about it, type deal. So,
Right.
and I
Yeah, and
feel like my
I'm
story's
fine with
done.
them making those jokes too. Like as long as it's not like being out of character salty, just because you hated the faction. Like if you're just making it something from, hey, your character feels this way in character, yeah, go with it. I'm fine with it.
My take is just
Right.
Enclave. I really liked what they were doing. The only part I disliked is that they didn't make a big enough splash. But you don't always have to. One and two,
Yeah,
they stuck to their guns, man. They had conviction about what they wanted to do, and they stuck to it. They did it, and then it ended. Like, and there's nothing really to complain about. Like in the previous conversation we had, somebody said, "Well, they were crusading," and I said, "Wait, were they?" Like, I don't remember, and I'm not joking on
not
it.
really.
I just don't remember any of that, and it's
Yeah,
like,
there were,
yeah,
the whole crusading thing was really just a kind of a meme. I mean, because I even made a factory sub on it because I made the Crusade energy drink. And it was basically I wrote in it. This is about jokes about crusading. I mean, because it was kind of a mean thing. We weren't really taking it seriously, although there were some who really actually wanted to. And if we had voted to go through with it, I would have been fine with it. I would have been down with it. It just never got that far.
Yeah, that almost does feel like the one time I was like in the Enclave server thinking about joining something. I think on the opposing side though. But I know one thing that, at least for me, kind of started to drain my want to do it was the constant genocide jokes. Where I'm like, please stop. I'm not enjoying this.
Yeah,
Okay.
I mean, most of those were jokes, though. Like in character, like the actual characters who were doing that were a minority.
Right. But it was just like in the planning channel to the point where it's like, can y'all tone it down a little bit, please? This is kind of just making me not want to talk.
How do you tone down genocide? What is your problem with genocide?
It's either all or nothing.
Yeah, how do you tone a genocide down, dog? Like,
I think it was just how much the joke came up. It was finally just getting to me like, do y'all have anything?
We don't have a problem with rebuilding Mandalore for the 800th time, but god damn if somebody says genocide a third time. Like, it's in character, man. We're not actually genociding people.
and we were just joking about it then.
Yeah.
Which, fair, but it was one of those things where I'm just sitting there like, and it's going to depend on the person with it. Like, clearly me, it wasn't working.
Yeah, fair enough.
Not all jokes for everybody.
Yeah, because it was like people hyped, and I'm like, this is doing the opposite for me.
Some points from me. I could go some couple different ways. Why are you not speaking, Dravian?
Probably to put it down in writing so people can look at it and remember it.
I remember
That's part
asking
one.
Dravian, not
Right,
Lefisto. That's your one comment of the entire session, Lefisto?
I got here late, man. I've been waiting.
Out here talking shit. You don't even know Dravian, dog.
I don't.
Yeah.
Oh, no, any of you.
But I do think one thing that people also got to look at, you're not going to please every single writer, like in the case I was just talking about.
Yeah, I don't care to.
It's fine if you don't.
Well, that's the conviction that people need. Is execute your vision and get out. Like Deadpool was saying with the whole. Okay, I gotta mute Lefisto. You're killing me, dog. Like like I was saying with the Deadpool stuff of just the whole rebuilding Mandalore and all that stuff. It does constantly come up, and it is constantly a hindrance. But it's a matter of just getting that stuff out of the way so you can do your own vision and execute it. Yeah, it sounded like you were shuffling poker chips, Lefisto. Like, are you live streaming from a casino right now? That's illegal. Okay, I'll unmute you though. Just mute yourself. I'm putting you on adult mute duty, but if you do it again, I gotta mute you. What the hell were we talking about? I have an exercise for when we run out of time because it is 9. We have 30 minutes left on the timer. And we don't have to go all the way through though. And I have a quick little exercise for all of us, and I'm just going to throw my silly, stupid questions out the window because you're going to hear the previous group. If you watch this stuff, you're going to hear the previous group go through the cultural moments or whatever.
Questions are now.
Yeah. Well, the question is basically, if you could kill Tef. No, I'm just kidding. The question will be like in an elevator speech. Everybody know what the elevator pitch is? Like 2 sentences or less.
Yeah, I know the elevator pitch.
I want you elevator pitch from everybody involved. So go ahead and kill Tef, nuke the map. That's so boring. You're like rebuild the Mandalore, dude. That's the rebuild the Mandalore answer of anything else, dude.
Wait, does your profile pic move when you talk? Hang on.
No.
Hands in this movie.
No. So the exercise is elevator pitch. Come up with the wackiest, craziest, stupidest, or bestest Mando faction idea. You don't have to pretend like you're going to lead it or anything. Just start thinking now, and you can spin it off the riff. I'll go ahead and start us off. I'm gonna go down the list. We're not gonna just yell out. We're gonna go down the list to give. So if you started with an alphabetical, actually I'm gonna start with the bottom of the list up. That'll put me first, since this guy's probably not gonna answer. I don't know. I have Discord in streamer mode, so I don't know your name, person below me in the alphabetical.
The Red Baron.
Red Baron. You can pass.
Malum, he doesn't have a Mando character. He's just lurking.
That's fine. This is for everybody. Thank you, Maya. You isolationist.
I'm just picking on him.
Okay.
He knows why.
One, Red Baron. You're. I want you. You're gonna be last because I'll go first. I'm tip of the spear, but you can come up with a Mando character that you're gonna write as your elevator pitch. So we can expand it to that. If you can't come up with a faction, come up with a character that you'll write. Oh man, I'm really gonna do this off the cuff because I have zero time to think about it. Oh, my Mando faction will be a mixture of droids that are have consciousness pulled from dead Mandalorians. But it's nothing but droids and droid supremacy, and with the occasional mutant droid as well. And we'll name him Mongolore instead of Mandalore.
This goes hard as fuck. Is this a joke or is this real?
This is real. This is real. This is happening.
Why don't you just continue writing Mecha Facts 2 if you want to run a droid
I actually already have a character named Mongolore. He was a gorilla. He was a simian alien species, and he was really distorted. He thought he was Mandalore, but pronounced it Mongolore, like King Kong.
I love it.
Yeah.
I dig it.
And
That's crazy.
And he spoke like Bizarro from Superman, so he spoke all fucked up.
Oh god.
Okay, so everybody get the gist of like what I'm asking for. We're gonna go down the list. We're gonna give
Mandroidlorians.
Yeah, it's gonna be Mecha. I'm just gonna take Mecha Factum, that faction I did for a little bit. I'm gonna call it Mando Factum.
I miss Mecha Facts 2.
That's why I'm never gonna do Mandalorians, because if I go back to if I go back to yes, literally what they're gonna be called is Mechalorians.
What happened? I never did know what happened to Mecha Factum. It just died.
I had an accident in real life. I had to take some time off for that, and then so it really just absolutely steamrolled the idea that I was leading a faction. But once I do get back in the roleplay, that's what I would do first, is revisit Mecha Factum and give it the respect that I think it deserves. But I love Mecha Factum.
I still want my shard in on that group with that faction.
Yes, and we'll expand it to have the Mechalorians, which will be droids who think they're Mandalorians, made entirely out of Beskar.
Because you already know I do have an actual droid who's a Mandalorian, so.
And then I gave you guys the freebie of Mongolore, who is a simian, King Kong-looking Mandalore, who's very confused, and he always yelled out, "Me am Mongolore," and he would just attack people. Okay, so we'll go. Red Baron, I said you were going to be last, so Sicarius, do you want to participate, or are you a hard pass skip?
Yeah.
Elevator pitch, faction, or character? Crazy, stupid. The crazier, the stupider, the better.
My sort of concept idea is the idea that people are talking about with sub-factions within the factions. So do that with Mandalorians so that we have Death Watch, we have Neo-Mandalorians, we have True Mandalorians, we have Children of the Watch. And so we have those sub-factions within the Mandalorian factions who are doing their own civil war, but who unite for external threats. Sort of like the Holy Roman Empire used to do. you know how that was constantly at civil wars between the various barons, but would unite for external threats. So that's the idea.
Okay.
We're all
Thank
thinking
you.
that they're German, but
Mig, elevator pitch faction, Mando faction, but it could be wacky, stupid, crazy, or it could be real.
yeah,
Whatever.
So
we're skipping over
I'm
Mia.
just gonna go on the crazy.
I'm going up my list.
Never would work
Oh.
on Chaos 1. The new Mandalorians.
Okay, explain. What the hell is a new Mandalorian?
I don't know what that. Yeah.
Is that a guy who just showed up to
Clone-
Mandalore?
Do you remember Clone Wars? Mandalore, how it was at the
Oh,
start.
like
Oh,
shit,
those
fucking
Yes.
the lame ones. The lame ones.
Yes, the lame one.
Okay.
So if anybody,
I'm gonna be real with you. As I get off my floor off this elevator, I gotta be real. That falls in the stupid category. It's still loud. It's gonna fall.
At least it's not the
Well,
Mandalorian
I was
Knights.
gonna go with the stupid category.
Hey, you nailed it. If that was the aim, you nailed that one, dude. Good job. Mia, it could be stupid. It could be funny. It could be crazy. Your faction idea, or if you have none, your character idea for Mandalorian.
My faction idea would be a sub-faction or a minor faction that is a specifically dedicated force-using group of Mandalorians with their own code built into the res on there.
As much as I hate Grey Raxus and the Clan Raxus, you're gonna say that in front of me?
Yeah,
You really,
I am.
You really.
What are you gonna do about
I'm
it?
just kidding. That was a great storyline.
We kind of the Enclave kind of had that.
Well, if you're smart, then every faction has that,
Yeah,
unless
I
you're cool enough to get by without it.
Although I guess the Mandalorians weren't really a sub faction; they were just kind of a group within the faction. But
Yeah, I'm going to be real. Like the first three people up for this idea, you've all described how factions already work. So this guy said, "I declare sub factions." Mig said, "I declare new Mandalorians." Okay, so that's really the only unique one. And then Mia said, "I'm going to have Force users in a sub faction."
Mandalorian Knights.
You guys
Yeah.
are really coming outside the box.
Yeah, dude, you think outside the box, guys. I know we're putting people on the spot, but that's the point of the exercise. All right.
In my defense, it's 2:15 in the morning.
Yeah, I don't.
Damn.
Well,
Yeah,
in your defense,
There was an EU meeting.
in your defense, Mia, you're the only person with enough balls to actually lead a faction in here. So minus Ham and myself, obviously, but Ham, you just joined. So and Birch, I think, has led a faction. Lefisto, you're up. Crazy idea, stupid idea, doesn't matter. Mando faction or
How
character.
about we could do something with the Mandalorian, get a storyline going along the lines of either doing something against the Force, like destroying the Force, or just get rid of it. Have them go after some kind of weapon or some.
Mandalorians destroy the Force. That's a good elevator pitch if I've ever heard one.
Should we tell him about the cure?
Well,
Yeah.
that was less destroy the Force and more cure the Mandalorians of the Force.
Well, there's also the new way.
But don't say that too loud about Mig, given how he feels about genocide, because we went full Hitler.
I think the new way faction was all about completely killing the Force.
Oh damn.
Okay.
I don't know. It's like we could do that, or something along the lines of like trying to restructure the entire culture of Mandalore, or like the Mandalorians. Try to build a new culture from scratch with
Good lord.
minor aspects from the previous, but go like a kind of a different route. Like
that's
try to find a route or some kind of method.
Yeah, I want to talk to you more about that afterwards, about Mangalore and the Mongolorians.
All hail Mongol the Great.
All hail Mangalore, dude. John, I know you're only in here to protect me from my intrusive thoughts. So what do you have to add? Anything? Or
I
you
mean,
want to pass?
my favorite Mandalorian stories have always been the small tactics, this like focus story on who they are rather than trying to tell a big story. Mandalorians aren't really meant to, like, have this empire. So I'd say screw the map game, screw trying to build a big territory. Get 1 or 2 planets and just focus on like a small unit in all of this. Don't even have a Mandalore. Screw Mandalore, screw a big story, let that be in the background. Just focus on a bunch of people thrown together trying to survive.
Cool. Also, come talk to me afterwards about how boring that idea is and Mangalore. Hamwagon. Hamwagon. I'm just building my Mongolorian faction at this point.
The Sons of
Hamwagon.
Mandalore.
Well,
it.
Nailed
I've
it.
already done 2 of them.
Okay,
Yeah,
nailed it, I
no,
guess.
I mean, if I was gonna
Elevator pitch, wacky
like,
ideas, whatever.
Yeah. So I think a cool one, kind of honestly, like what John was saying. If you made like a little like Black Company style, like the book series, if anyone's familiar, like a little like
Oh yeah, I love that
Mercenary
series.
Commandos, like jumping into other faction invasions or whatever the fuck, just building out their own little story. Or that could be cool.
Like an
That's
ODST?
neat.
Like an
Yeah, there
orbital
you go.
drop?
That can, yeah, just like
Yeah.
some super commandos going around. Doesn't just fighting for the highest bidder. That could be cool.
Okay, well, I made fun of John, so now I'll bolster his claim and then also yours because those things are together kind of. The Republic had what was that? The Inferno Squadron or whatever. I think the Empire, that was the Empire thing. I think, but the Republic
Yeah,
had a Inferno Squadron. Oh, Havoc Squad. Derp. It's called Havoc Squad.
That's the troopers from.
That was an actually very popular subfaction for a while back in the day. Was they had Havoc Squad and like it was if Havoc Squad was coming your way, you could always expect like 5 or 6 riders are rolling up on your ass.
You're
about to get steamrolled.
Fun.
Yeah,
I think it is. Yeah.
I love the idea of that. That just sounds
I was
fun.
about to say it wasn't that problem, but no, that was the Halians.
So like you could do that easily enough by just like having your main Mandalorian, then having, if you don't want your main Mandalorian in that squad, you could do a alternative character like a secondary character who only partakes in those squad stuff. That's a cool idea.
It kind of reminds me of like the canon idea of like Fenrir's protectors, where it was like, oh, they're paying us. Okay.
Well, then you got Mig, who operates the squad, the Admiralty that could drop you guys off. Like the writing's on the wall already, dude.
It all comes together.
Okay, so that's Dravian. Are you available? And if so, elevator pitch on wacky ideas for a faction. Crazy, good, stupid, doesn't matter. Just elevator pitch for a faction idea or elevator pitch for a Mando character idea.
I'm gonna go stupid character idea.
Okay.
How many of you have read the High Republic stuff yet? Or do I need to tell you what a Vincian is?
That's
I
those
think I'm pronouncing that
plant
correct.
things, right?
No.
No.
It is literally a slab of rock that's sentient.
Wait, it's a shard of the rock?
Yes, it is literally a rock. Let me pull
A
up
shard technically is a rock.
Okay, that's true.
No, this is different.
They're
This is very
minerals,
different.
Marie. They're not rocks, they're minerals.
Silicon is a rock.
Okay, I'm done. That's
Oh
my
my
one.
word, it is just a slab.
That's my one reference. It's a Breaking Bad reference, by the way.
I don't know. Looks kind of square to me.
Oh my god! But yeah, I just
Fucking
love this.
obelisk.
We don't know. We
Yeah,
don't. We
that
don't know
was-
how they move. Don't know how they move, but I just imagine one of these with a little like scar hat, just going, like grinding against the ground, and it's just the most hilarious thing in my head.
I feel like I've seen something like this in a recent YouTube indie horror thing.
Okay, that works for me. I'm gonna slaughter this, but Draugr. Will there be a U in there? I feel like I'm saying a slur.
No, not Draugr.
There's a hard R on that Draugr. Go ahead and spit your elevator pitch.
Okay, my crazy idea. The Mandalorians. They're nothing but a faction of small creatures like Ewoks, and that little thing that Babu Frick is. All Mandalorians of nothing but tiny characters.
I'm sold. I'm buying off on this one.
Yes.
This guy just beat all of you. Well, we
reminds
still
me
got
of-
2 left.
Dude, I can't fucking top that. Let's go.
The Mandalorians have just taken the lead, going over to Crazy Zerg now for his elevator pitch.
Okay, so for a more reasonable pitch, so it's not going to be as entertaining, and I just made like my first ever Mando character, and the basic concept is that he's basically like a fucking fanboy of the fucking history pages. He has a whole ass LARP fan club, is the shortened version of it. They wear the old ass armor that isn't even that good. The fucking Neo Crusader, the original Neo Crusader one that looks like a fucking raincoat, and it's overall they're not a very effective fighting force, but they're like, nah, we totally kick that guy's ass. We totally, you see that Jedi, that Sith over there, raised Mandalore to the ground? Yeah, we'd kick his ass. And that's basically what I've been working with lately.
What? So are they like
that's
the
pretty
gang
cool.
guys that are from Secondhand Lions, where the grandpa just beats them up?
Yeah, they're the people who'd roam the fucking thrift shops looking for old merchandise and be like, no, dude, look at this sick find.
Well,
I love this.
I love role-playing characters that role-play as other characters, because I, like, literally my last major Mandalorian was a character who was, like, I got asked to do Raw, like, bring Raw back so many times that I made a character who LARPed as Raw. Like, he's literally
so
like a early 20 dude who's so enamored with Raw. He's basically role-playing a
I think I remember vaguely coming across that in a thread one time.
That was the Raw that was
But
with
yeah,
the Sons of Mandalore in NIO.
Yeah, so I just kind of implemented them in a post just today, and the goal of him is to basically like walk into this group of supposed New Crusaders and be like, actually, we were doing that first. You're like posers, and we know more than you, so you should listen to us.
Well, that seems like an OOC discussion that I have every day.
Well, no, it's purely IC poking fun. It's purely.
You all should listen to me.
No. I didn't mean it literally. It's
Okay.
a joke.
No,
It's
I know
it's
that.
funny. It's
I
funny.
know what you're saying now.
All right, I'm done now. That's my pick.
It's pretty good. It's no mini Lorian, but it's pretty good.
Yeah, sorry, I can't top that, dude. That's like.
I know that was
apex.
rough. I would have hated to be in your seat, to be real. That was rough. There was no dodging that, man. You had to take one for the team. Birch, are you ready for your elevator pitch exercise?
Oh god, I thought I was, and then a bunch of ideas just went through my head. I have no idea.
Oh, you just
I
got
guess,
floored.
Yeah, I'd like to see an opposition, like an opposition faction of some sorts for the Mandalorians, I guess. But then I like the droid idea too. Like maybe there's a clan of droids that the random droids just like, I want to be a Mandalorian, and none of the Mandalorians take them seriously, and they kind of run around. Everybody kind of makes fun of them, but they, that's another thought. And then yeah, I also like that idea of Mandalorians not being territorially based, but struggling for resource based. That's something I think would be really cool. Is where they're kind of like the rebellion, where they struggle to get every single ship, armor, and everything that they have, and every time they lose something, it matters, and everything counts. Everything matters. I don't know. I have no idea what the fuck I'm talking about. Sorry, guys.
No, you're fine. That was great. Everybody give Birch a round of applause. You know what I'm saying? You did a great job.
Hell yeah.
Way better than that. Way better than that last guy. Am I right, guys? That crazy Zerg.
Fuck you, Jeff.
Crazy Zerg got up there and just bombed, bro. No, I'm just kidding.
Tough crowd.
Tough crowd. Tough crowd, guys. Tough crowd.
Chirp.
No, I think these are all great. It's just an exercise. You don't have to worry about anything. Nothing serious committed except for Mongolore. I do want those people I named to see me after class.
Oh boy.
Yeah, we're.
I don't know, man. I think that Mandalorians guy better like actually start drafting that idea.
Yes, please.
The Mandalorians take on Mongolore in episode 18 of
I'm
this.
absolutely not looking for art for that already.
He just gets swarmed by a bunch of little creatures.
Ewoks and stuff. That'd be cool.
It's like Gulliver's Travels.
Yeah.
It hits me with the vibe of like, what was that droid team on Clone Wars?
Oh, with the little commander that was inside.
Oh,
one of the
yeah.
right.
Oh, hell yeah.
It hits me like
It was
that, like the
B-Squad.
Mandalorian, yeah, B Squad or D Squad. You're right.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I think they have their own comic series. Like,
Wait,
They
seriously?
do. They just came back in like a recent in the Mecha Factoum thing. The fucking the corrupting one. You know,
Yeah.
the corrupting droid and all that.
I think it's a good idea, and I think it's a fun idea because that's when I feel like things are too serious, I will take a moment and go invade Hoth during Operation Hoth for the NIO. You know what I'm saying?
Oh, that was awesome. Yeah, it was huge.
Like I was just, I will just absolutely take a moment of seriousness and turn it into comedy because that's the most important part is that we remember we're just writing things and where it's nothing serious. It's fan fiction, guys. It's not that real.
Right. Is it bad that I'm thinking of a mini character now and I'm just looking like Buzz Droid Mando?
I'm trying to look for the Mongolore images that I did back in the day, but I'll just post this. And it's stupid, but it's funny.
I love it.
I don't know where that came from.
I'm one of those sentient starships.
Well, I think somebody was like recoloring a ship for somebody's factory sub, and I just kept sneaking in the conversation and changing the image.
Or based on those googly eyes, semi-sentient.
Yeah.
I mean, it does make me think of that one Gazante cruiser in Rebels that was like the spy one, but they had painted it all up too.
Yeah.
It's like member of the month.
Here's a sweet Crusader thing I did back in the day. Okay, we're about at that 9:30 mark. Yes, Death Watch.
I'm feeling that.
Badass.
Not to give my idea.
Hand drawn, by the way. Well, as Zeph figured out with the comic art stuff, if you can't be good at role playing, be good at art. Because Zeph,
true. It covers a lot of crimes.
yeah, Zeph is like one of the worst writers that I know, and he definitely has obscured all of your vision with his beautiful comic covers.
Drawn the wool over your eyes.
Yeah. Too bad he died, though. That's terrible news.
Well, it's picking up the slack and writing for him. So
That's terrible. I hate to hear that for you.
Well, I feel like I'm doing pretty good keeping the quality down. Not that it's too hard for me.
Nice. Oh, Red Baron, I didn't mean to skip you. I almost forgot about you, but if you want, you don't have to speak, or you can write it down or whatever. I don't want to put any pressure on you, but elevator pitch for either.
I tried it.
Okay, you got it. Cool. Sorry.
Yeah, I'm not sure my character still, but going along with people mentioned bringing up like the ancient Greek polis. You have all your like Mongolian, inspirations. One thing that I've always enjoyed about the Mandalorians is the clan setup, and like I also noticed that some of the clans seem to have like specific planets that they like own. So just like a faction which is almost like warlordy in that the clans own, like a clan owns a specific planet and they just feud, and you just have a lot of internal feuding, and then maybe at a time when there's a larger threat, you have them uniting to do your tie or what it was, Arula tie, and find a new Mandalore. So if it's not like you need to find a Mandalore to because you need to. It's because you have to find a Mandalore for whatever threat you're facing. But not at all sure if that's been done or not. So feel free to mock it.
No, that's a great idea because we did do something similar. I believe I was the only one to do something similar, so great minds think alike. Because you sound kind of awesome, and I'm pretty awesome myself. But the
Real humble guy.
extremely, I'm the most humble on the board,
Ego
dude.
on this one.
Humble brag.
But yeah, so as the map maker for the entire website in the beginning, back in the day, I also
Not that you
made.
have any idea. It's so humble.
I also made the map for the Mandalorians, and we attributed influence cloud sizes in Mando space based on the size of your clan. And that gave people incentive to try to convince other riders to join their clan so that they could have yet another big blurb of useless color that could grow and they would be proud of.
Yeah.
Useless color's huge.
So yeah, I think
But that's a great
I think
idea. I haven't seen
That's
it
sick,
done
yeah.
since, and I thought it worked okay for us then. But that's up to like the vibe of the faction. But yeah,
Still
man,
have
thanks.
that map or no?
I'd have to
I
look.
also think I think one thing that aids it in fixing is I think a big problem that I've seen is that like there's a lot of different ways to write a Mandalorian, and that's completely fine. That usually leads up to like I feel like two extremes forming, and then if one extreme does something, the other extreme's like, no, I can't stand for this, and then leaves the faction. But like if you have these different clan groupings, you can group these ideologies. So you have your own little it group that you can do stuff with.
Okay, well this is my floor. I gotta get off the elevator. So sorry. No, I'm just playing, man. No, that was great. I wholeheartedly agree. I don't like to get into the OOC stuff because like that you hint at a little bit because, and this is a great way to cap off the night because we are ending here shortly in the next minute or two. But it's a great way to cap off the night because you guys heard me even more passionately talk about self-inserts in this call than the EU crowd got, which is you guys keep talking about the biggest things we divide on is like Mandalorians can't agree on anything. Bro, you're writers. You're not Mandalorians. You are writers. That is the most.
Don't ruin my delusion.
We can make them agree if we want to.
You are not Mandalorians, dude. You are writers. Please take that to heart. Because that is where you divide, is how closely you don't have to write with people that you don't like enjoy their vision on how to do that. That's not at all what I'm saying. But what I am saying is that any writer can give some get. Like the dance, man. You can give some of your idea and take some of theirs. That's how, like, that doesn't just apply to PvP. That applies to building a faction together. And like, it takes a village, man. Nobody can do this on their own. Mia has shown you that, and she can lift half the country, dog, on the shoulders she's been carrying for the last 4 months. So, you're welcome. That's my point. Is it takes a village. You can give and get. You're writers, dude. Adapt, overcome, take it as a challenge.
Right.
And that's again, that goes back to that question I asked of this call ends. Where do you go from here? What did this Mando Writers Assembly accomplish? Anything? Or did we just have fun coming up with Mandalorians? So,
well, I mean, the Mandalorians were pretty important.
They were.
I think that was the cake, icing on the cake for today.
This was.
I do also seriously want to do that like Spec Ops type idea.
Yeah, just because I said you can have Mandalorian ODST like fighting Mongolor, dude. Yes. You could do all these. You are writers. You are creative. You are here not only because you've come up with this stuff and because you like doing it, but because you are also creative. You are, and some of you are very good. So apply yourselves. Apply these thoughts. dig up people that you agreed with in the call and talk to them. But it just hurts me to see people throw their votes at a person who did not deserve it, even if they weren't a ban invader. and dude, if you read a minute of Arla's writing, dude, it was atrocious, bro. And she ignored everything.
Oh, yeah.
And so that's my take.
That's
Is
why
like
I found out it was him.
Especially there at the end.
That's my take. Is you just didn't care. You just wanted somebody active, man. But from this call alone, and from the call previous alone, like that's not an excuse I want to hear from this group of Mandalorians or this assembly, because it's not true. You guys do care, and you are good at it. So apply yourselves. With that said, we are drawing down to a close. Does anyone have any final remarks before we part ways? I think we lost most of the crowd anyways.
I do have one thing.
Go ahead, Dragger.
There was one thing that Birch he and I had talked about like a couple of years ago, and he never really got to get it off the ground, and he kind of wanted to. He had some stuff going on. And so I want to reach out to him, see if he's still interested in it. But he mentioned something about Beskar Wars and other places where they have like black market Beskar and basically like a war to try to reclaim it and stuff.
See me after
I'm
class.
Not sure.
Mongol
I'm not sure about the
still in some shipments of illegal Beskar. The Mandalorians
I'm not sure
are going to
about
have to come
the
stop
full
them.
details.
So,
I'm
yeah,
not sure about the full details, but I'd have to, talk to him again about it, see if he's still interested in stuff about it. But it's an idea.
Dravian and I think Lefisto or somebody, two others raised their flags for last remarks. Yep. But Dravian, do you have anything last to say?
I just want to thank all of you for being willing to even have this conversation in the first place. I mean, this is awesome. This is way beyond than what I expected to happen. And plus, I've laughed. I didn't expect to laugh tonight.
You're welcome.
Hey.
Next person. Yeah, what's
up?
Thank you very much.
Hail Mongolo.
Thank you, John. Meg, you've talked a lot tonight. You got any last words?
I guess just nice to be able to put some voices to faces, and remember there are people behind the screen too, because I think sometimes that's easy on the internet to forget.
I remember seeing them.
You've seen my face.
Oh, true.
Yeah. Half the community's seen my face, dog. What up?
What, you're not a blue gremlin?
Damn, we've been lied to this whole time.
Fucking kidding.
Okay. Crazy Zerg, any last thoughts, concerns?
Cassius Fett did nothing wrong.
Cassius Fett did nothing wrong.
Real and true.
Real and true.
So true.
Ham, Mr. attends two of them.
No.
You got any? Thank you.
No,
Mia, any last words from she who shall not be blamed?
But is always blamed.
Well, yeah, I hold you at fault, but nobody else should.
Yeah, that's fine. I don't care. No, nothing from me other than it's really fucking late and I need to sleep. So, but always a pleasure jumping on with you guys online. That's
a great way to end it. All right, guys. There won't be a next time. I'm abandoning you. You have to do this without.
Just like my father.
Yeah. You don't have anyone to help you but yourselves. There's already a.
Trying to get the blue milk.
There's a bag of Marlboro Reds and a gallon
wait here.
Bro, like, you hear it every time. You hear people asking, when I walk into a chat and I just want to see what's going on, man, I'm curious just like everybody else. You hear people going, hey, you going to role play with us? And then you hear people talk, when I start talking about Rob, people start going, oh, like the Kez of the group who's going to talk shit, then not show up tonight. Third time I'm mentioning that he ghosted like a coward.
And you already said there's not going to be a resurrection.
There's not going to be a resurrection. Great pun. I like that, actually. There's not. The most you'll get from me in the future is Mongolor versus episode 21 versus the Mandalorians.
And then that fake Raw floating around.
No, he's dead too. My
well,
take
he was
is
in the Droid Hunger Games.
I'm not going to help with faction leadership, man. This is on this Mandalorian community shoulders, dude. I'm always available for advice if any of you want to talk through some ideas, but it's on you guys, because I will let you burn. I'll let the ship sink, dude. I don't care.
And I can attest to him being very good for bouncing ideas off of too.
Okay. Well, stay safe. Take care of yourselves, and good night and good luck.
Hell yeah.
Yeah.
It's just me, Mongolord 2025.